All right, let's make the video component, which is the main component of this prototype. All right, I just made a new component. I am giving it the background color that I like. I'm going to label this video, and I want to size the container. Select the container and we'll put it to 0, 0, and let's make it 393. And just like the Reels UI, 774 pixels high, and this will account for the tab bar UI that is on the main scene. Okay, so let me go through my notes and see what we have first. Okay, so we're going to we have a couple of gradient fills to make it so the UI is easier to see. So let's go to the asset folder. There's a gradient PNG. It's just a feathered transparent G. We're going to have two of them: gradient top and then gradient bottom. I just duplicated it and relabeled them. All right, so the top one, this is going to be 530 pixels wide by 200 pixels high. So 530 pixels by 200 wide. We are going to give it 180 rotation. We don't need to see that. And we're going to align it to the top. And let's put it at 60% opacity. Okay, and now the bottom one is going to be 650 pixels wide by 250 pixels high. We can do it 60% opacity, center it up, bottom align it, and we can then clip sublayers, and everything's looking peachy. Okay, the next thing is we are going to bring in the Star Wars video. So this will be the video clip that we will see in our component, but of course we're going to update it with other things like Zootopia, Toy Story, BTS. It's just like updating an image. So this is going to be 400 pixels wide by 850 high. So 400. And then it's right there on the threshold of being 850. I'm going to unlock aspect ratio lock, 850, and then I'm going to lock it again, and then I'm centering it up inside. Okay, and we don't want this to be playing or looping. If you ever see this thing on, take it off, because that means every video will just be playing. It'll be a cacophony of sound. All right, we want to label, bring it to the bottom. We want to label it clip. We don't want to label it anything like video, because if these are the same names, it has caused problems, and I actually found out the hard way. So be sure to label it something different. Have your label names unique to so we don't have any conflicts. Okay. So the next thing is we're going to make the progress bar that runs across the bottom of the video. These are two shapes. Let's just drag a rectangle. We'll make it 0 and we'll bottom align it, and 393 pixels by 1 pixel high, and it is white. And let me see what I set it at. 35% opacity at white. So we can do it here. You could do it with a fill, or the opacity, doesn't matter. All right, so I'll just do it with a fill. So it's a very faint, but there it is. Okay, we'll call this progress base, and then we're going to duplicate it with a Command D, and then we'll call this progress fill. This will be 0.5 pixels wide, and it'll be 100 pixels. 100% opacity. Nobody's going to see this little niche, this little notch, and as soon as you start playing a video, it's going to start animating anyhow. So that's the that's the fill that's going to go across when we're playing a video. Okay. Next, let's bring in the two child components. So we have the Reels UI and pause and play. I'm just dragging both of them on. I use a shift key and let me go to 100%. All right, so let's get rid of these ones. Let's get rid of this one. Reels UI is at 0, 0. And then that pause and play is just center it up. And you'll notice that you can see it, which is why I did the start trigger to, remember I have all of this to like animate it out. That's why it's there. By the way, I'm so glad I went back to this. Please, I found that I did mean to have this. There is some reason that you see both icons sometimes. Please, in the pause and play component, add an opacity response under the start. Call it pause icon opacity 0, select the pause icon and just drop it to 0. Okay, just do me that solid. Thank you. All right, going back to the video. So if I go to preview, you'll see that you don't see it anywhere, and that's what we want. But we do want to see it so we know how to work with it. Okay. And let me be sure. Let me see if I have the order correct. So the gradients are at the bottom. Great, progress, Reels UI. I guess I'll just reorder it just to be consistent. Awesome. There is a little thing called a timer object. I will do that in a few minutes when we get to it. And don't worry about it. Okay, the first thing is we're going to set up the tap trigger for to play the video or to play the clip. So select clip and add a tap trigger, and we're going to label it tap clip. I'm just copying my notes. Okay. Tap, I have this selected, the clip. We're going to call it tap clip to play or pause. And the first thing is we're going to add the playback response, and we're going to set it to play, and we're going to be sure that it is on looping. Okay, so I'm going to put playback, and I'm going to call it playback equals play, and I'm going to hit looping. Awesome. So in the properties panel, always when creating triggers and responses, be sure you have the correct item. I wrote a little note to myself. I make a lot of mistakes where I have something selected, the wrong thing that's in the target. Maybe I have the progress base selected to a trigger or a response. It's just make sure that it's always the first place you look when there's trouble amiss. Okay, when you're trying to troubleshoot something. Okay, so we need. So we have a way to notify the component pause or play. Okay, so we're going to create a send response, and it's going to be called send play. We want to send to the child component, and we want the child component to be pause and play, and we want the message to be played. So when we tap, what we're doing right here is I did a send response. I want to send a message to a child component, and the child component is pause and play, and I want the message to be played.
Coming in. I've got a lot.
There we go. It works. Awesome. Now, we previewed it. It all works, but something we notice is you can't stop it. Again,
Coming in. I've got a lot.
I'm just hitting that animation over and over. So just like, if you remember, just like in Reels UI with this component comment icon, the like icon, we set up a variable to tell if it is on or off, and we're going to do the same thing with the video. We're going to like make a variable that says is playing, and it'll be 0. 0 is off and 1 is playing. Okay? So let me go to my notes now, back in the interaction. Okay. So we need to add an assign response. Assign is how you write something into a variable. And we're going to select the variable, is playing, and we're going to put the number 1 in it. And we're going to call it, put the number 1 into the variable. Okay. Actually, I should probably write is playing. And just to make it shorter, put number 1 into is playing. Okay. This way, we're actually now saying that, hey, ProtoPie, when the thing is playing, I am going to put a number 1 in you. When you are at 0, that means that we are on pause. And if I put the little bug on it, the little debug, so you can see, I put this little guy here. I go in the previewer. When I tap on
I've got a lot.
when I tap on the video, it goes to number 1. We just need it to go back to number 2. And now we have to set up, you guessed it, or maybe you guessed it, a condition. So we can know how to do this. So let's add a condition. If video is not playing, so I'm going to select that variable. I'm going to say equals, and I'm going to say 0, because 0 is not playing. And I'm going to cut these, and I'm going to select that and paste them. So now we have a condition that says if the video is equal to 0, it's so saying if the variable is saying that it is not playing, then run these 3 instructions. And we're going to now do the converse, which is copy, paste. If video is playing, so we want to say if video is equal to 1, playback, pause, send, paused, which reminds me I'd like to put played in there, put number 0 into the variable. All right, let's see if I got it working.
Coming in. I've got a lot.
Awesome. All right, great. So one thing that we did do is I didn't change this message to pause. That's why we were not seeing the pause icon. So let's try it again.
Coming in. I've got a lot.
Because this message is sending it to this guy saying, hey, run this animation. And before it was saying, hey, run that animation. Okay. So you can see how I'm troubleshooting in real time, and I'm getting rid of this. I don't need to see it anymore. And now we have this nice little interaction that you can play around with. Feels good. We need to assign 2 triggers, a single tap and a double tap, to the same exact layer, which is clip. And the problem is when a user double taps on a layer, the first tap of that double tap interaction is interpreted as a single tap, which causes both the single tap and the double tap responses to fire or activate at the same time. In this scenario, that means if a user double taps on this video, they would see the pause and play animation, and they would also see the Lottie animation of the large thumbs up, the blue thumbs up that we have in the Reels UI. Clearly that's a problem. We don't want that, and we have a cool little trick to address this. And what I'm going to do is show you what we're going to do with this little circle right here. I'm going to make it bright yellow. Okay, so we're going to have this circle be a timer object that goes from left to right on the device. So when a user single taps on the video to pause or play it, this will go from the left and it'll start animating really fast to the other side. And now if it reaches the other side, and we're going to capture that information with a range trigger, that if this equals whatever this is on the x-axis, then we're going to fire off the responses that pause and pause or play the video. Now let's say the user double taps. Now, if the user double taps before this oval gets to the other side of the device, then we're going to send this back. We're going to say no thanks, and we're going to send it back to its starting position, and the prototype will then recognize what just happened as a double tap because that second tap will have had enough time to happen. So let's put it together, and I think it'll make sense when we start seeing it play out. So let's keep this oval. Let's call it timer object, and let's center it to the origin, or make the origin center. Make it 24 pixels by 24 pixels, and we'll do it 0 at 200. Eventually, I'm going to put it at 0 fill, 0% on the fill, but just so we can see what we're doing, let's keep it at 100%. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is add a tap trigger. And we're going to add a tap trigger. We'll call it single tap clip timer object. And we're going to make the target clip. We want to have the tap happen on the video layer. And we're going to add a move response. We'll do the timer object, and we want to move it to 393. And we want it to be a linear animation. We just want it, it's a timer object, so we definitely don't want any like easing or easing out curves. And I believe that 0.2 is enough time for the prototype to capture or not capture the second tap of a double tap interaction. I feel comfortable with this. If you want to give the user more time to have their finger do that second tap, you can make it 0.3. I really wouldn't give much more time to this. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do is add a range trigger. And we're going to use a range trigger to fire off. We're going to use the range trigger to capture if this timer object makes it all the way to the other side of the screen. So let's call this range trigger range timer object. So we have the target is the timer object. The property that we are looking at is the X. And we're going to keep it on the first button. And that first button means equal or greater than. And we're looking at that equal as the thing that we're really targeting. So we want to equal 393. So if this happens and the prototype like captures this information, then we're going to run off a few responses. And the first response is reset. Let's put that oval right back to its home because we already captured what we needed to capture. So I'm calling it reset timer object, and we can put that in parentheses just to be consistent. We want to reset the timer object, and we want this to be an instant occurrence. So don't put any duration on it. And let's next add I believe it's a send trigger. Okay. We're going to do send, and we want it to be in the current component. And we want to send the current component because we're going to have 4 of these, and we definitely want to keep each instance of this video component separated from all the others. So we want to send it to the current component, and we want the message to be tapped video layer, send tapped video layer. Okay. And what will happen is that we're going to set up a receive trigger for this message in a minute, but let's set up the double tap functionality right now. So I'm just going to select that just because I want to copy the name. So we're going to add a double tap onto the clip layer, and we're going to call it double tap clip layer timer object. And by the way, the order of these matter. We always want double tap to be below single tap. ProtoPie, I believe it reads from top to bottom, and I found that if this happened to be on top, it would not work, or I think if I recall it was causing bugs. So be sure of that. And the first thing we want to do, if we do a double tap, is to reset that timer object. So let's just copy this and put it there. All right, that's a great thing. You can just copy things and paste things, so it helps with workflow. And then the next thing we want to do is set up a send. We want to send the message to, remember, we have Reels that says receive double tap. It's right here. So this is receiving from the parent. Video is the parent of this Reels UI that's right here. So we want to send a message, and we're going to say send double tap video. We're going to send it to a child component, and the child component is going to be Reels UI, and the message is double tap video. And then this will set up the big animation of that thumbs up. Okay, and now let's configure the trigger for the single tap. And remember, we just set up the range trigger. Right here, it fires off the message tap video layer. So now we need to set up a receive trigger for this. So let's call it receive tap layer. We want to receive from the current component, and the message is tap video layer. And now what we're going to do is go up to what we did here. We're going to copy all of this, these two conditions. We can copy it or paste it or cut it. Sorry, copy it or cut it. But you can then paste it under there and then delete that. We took all of those responses that we made before and we're just relocating it. So let's see if this works.
Coming in. I've got a lot.
Great. Let's get rid of this. Let's not get rid of it, but let's put the fill at 0. That's a little annoying to see. And I think I saw a little bug that I want to take care of.
Coming in. I've got a lot.
You notice that big animation, that big Lottie animation, you can see it move. It's following. I don't want to do that, and I know why. It's because I have an animation, a duration on the Lottie button on the move. So go back to Reels UI, move Big Lottie to where finger tap is, and let's get rid of the duration. We don't want to see it. We want it to be an instant thing. And the next one is over here. Okay, and if we go back.
Coming in. I've got a lot.
There, that's a lot better. All right, let's work on this progress bar animation. We're going to use a variable to create a scalable way to pass along the length of a particular video's, the length or the duration of a particular video clip to inform a scale response on the progress bar to animate across the bottom of a video. Let's make a variable. We'll call it video length. And we will make this overridable, so you, the user, will be able to put in the duration of a video clip. If you use your own videos and you want to know how long a video clip is, you can select it, that video clip, and in the properties panel it'll tell you length of a video. In this case, mine is 12 seconds. All of the videos that I provide you will be 12 seconds. Okay. So the next is we're going to add a detect trigger. And we're going to detect the length of the video, or the length of the clip. So let's call it detect video time and progress bar. So I do have video clip selected, which is great. The property that I want to detect and I want to watch out for is the time. And now we're going to add a scale response. And we're going to select the progress fill. Let's call this scale the progress fill layer. And now we're going to do something kind of interesting. We're going to use a formula that I did not come up with. I pulled it from a prototype made by somebody at ProtoPie, and I would not know how to come up with this. So just enter in what I'm doing. So the first thing is that I went to scale 2, and I selected on the width. And the first thing is I want to use the plus sign, and I'm going to select clip. And after I have clip in there, which is the layer or the object, I want to use the period, and the period will then bring up all of the properties. And I'm going to type current time. And the next is I'm going to do a divide sign. Then I'm going to then do the plus sign again and do video length. Okay, and now I want to do the multiplication sign. And then type in progress base. And then do the period and then type in width. And press OK. And if you want to add a number into the video length, I'm just reading my notes. So we can test this right now. I can keep it 0. You won't see anything happen if I press play.
Coming in. I've got a lot.
But if you want to test it, you can add the number 12 into here.
Coming in. I've got a lot.
There we go. And when I pause it, it stops the video from playing, and that means that it stops the progress bar. I'm going to go back and make it 0 because I want us to get into the habit of taking care of this on the main scene. As I mentioned before at the top of the tutorial, I made a bunch of static elements where I populated it with a bunch of static elements. I have a couple of home notches. I have a black one that's at 0 opacity, and we can animate this to be 100% when we have the comments sheet come into view. I have a hairline guide, and I use this hairline guide. Ooh, let me turn it on. I use this when it comes time to set up the rules for where a video should automatically pause or play. And for now, we're going to keep this on hide. And now we're going to, and I have the top UI. I don't know if I mentioned that, but this is literally like just a font that says Reels. It's the Facebook font, and I have the 3 icons. I have the scrim. We mentioned this a few times, and then I have the tab bar locked at the bottom right there. All right, the first thing we're going to do is populate the main scene with some videos. Let me zoom out a little bit, and let's just drag one in. I'm going to close this just to get some real estate. Okay, so we have a video. We can duplicate it, Command D. You could drag 4 of them on to the screen, but we could also duplicate them over and over. So I am ordering them 1, 2, 3. I am selecting them. I'm going to select them all. And by the way, if they aren't aligned, be sure they're aligned. So if I did to bring them in, I don't know how you brought them in, but if they were like this, I would select them all. I would use the just align it to the left, align it to the top, just so they're all on the same XY axis. And then just to put it further, we can go to 0, 0, and we are going to, with them all selected, Command G, so they're all in a container, and we are going to label it paging container. And at the properties, on the properties, we're going to do paging, and we're going to make sure that we have it on vertical paging. Okay? And now we are going to drag the layer or the group to the bottom. It'll be at the very bottom below even the tab bars. And we're going to stack all the video components by 774 pixels height on the Y position. Okay. So unfortunately at this point, and I think it will happen in the coming year, ProtoPie doesn't have a layout. And so we have to position things by hand as opposed to just turning this into a layout and then pressing a button. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to take video 2 and we're going to put it at 774. Okay, and then we're going to select video 3, and that's going to be 1548. And then the last one, video 4, is 2322. 2322. Okay, so they all should look like that. And if you want to hide these, which we will, we can clip the sublayers. Let's now update the videos and images before we get into interaction. So we're going to now deal with the content design. All right, so we're going to go into video 1 in the layers panel, and we're going to expand it and see what's inside. And we're going to select on clip, and we're going to update all the videos with the movies that we want. So the first one is going to be Toy Story. So the first thing we're going to do is we selected the clip. What I did is I went into video 1, I went to the bottom, and now I'm going to have to X out of this and then insert. I clicked on insert, and we're going to go to desk where my assets are. I'm going to videos, and the first one I want to put in is Toy Story. So I select it, it goes in, and that's it. And let's go to the second one. I'm going to take paging. I'm going to take it clip sublayers off so I can actually see what I'm doing. So let's go down to the second clip in video 2. And we're going to update that Star Wars. Actually, it is Star Wars. We don't have to update it. All right, let's go to video 3. Go to clip. Let's remove Star Wars and then add BTS. And these are all sized the same way. I'm not having any variations on dimensions, so nothing is skewing or anything. I suggest if you ever do this sort of thing, then you keep all of your assets nice and tidy and consistent. So that way when you do these swaps, you don't have any oddities. All right, the last one is Zootopia. So what we need to do is update, remember that override that tells you the video length? We're going to put the number 12 in it because every one of these videos is 12 seconds. Just as a reminder, if you needed to know the length of a video, you can go to the video layer, select it, and it will tell you the length of the video. And as I mentioned before, every one of these videos happens to be 12 seconds because I used the same template in my editing software, my movie editing software. But if you had a video that was 20 seconds, you would see it here, and then you would put in the number 20. So video 1 is 12 seconds. I'm going to select video 2, put in the number 12 seconds. Video 3, put in the number 12 seconds. And video 4, 12 seconds. Okay, so while on the main scene, we can open the previewer and we can swipe through and we can see the opening clip. And you might be noticing that if we tap on the videos.
But I don't want any trouble in here. So hit the road.
I'm not looking for any trouble either, sir. I simply want...
They play, and the only way they stop is if we actually pause. This is why we're going to set up some logic on why on where this plays and stops automatically based on scroll. We definitely want to force the videos to stop playing when they are not in view. So that's going to be coming up shortly. Let me get rid of this. So now we're going to quickly update all of the author avatars and the augmented chip text, which I made as images. And updating images is pretty much the same as how we update videos. So let's do one. All right, in video one, let's go up here. In video one, we're going to open up this container, okay? And we're going to go to the Reels UI, and we're going to select Image Avatar. And we're going to go to the Properties panel, and we're going to tap on the thumbnail, and we're going to fill this with a new image. Now, interesting, in the next release of ProtoPie, there will be a button right here that will say Insert when you hover. It is a lot nicer than what we're about to do, but right now I'm using the current version, so we're going to have to tap on the X, and we're going to insert an avatar. So let's get this weird Peter Griffin. All right. And we'll use the same method for doing the augmented chip. So let's close this. And then we're going to go into the augmented chip. And we're going to open this up. And we're going to go to Feed. And we're going to select Image Label Chip. And we're going to go to Fill. And again, in the new version that's coming out in a week or two, there will be a button right here on Hover that just says the word Insert. But right now, we have to X out and then Insert. And then I'm going to go into the Assets folder, and I'm going to get chip labels. And I'm going to select Video 1's chip label, and then Open. Okay. And that's pretty much it. We're going to now do the next three. So I might fast forward this, but just watch me do it. Okay, I'm back. So a cool thing is if you had everything open, you could always select some top level container and collapse all containers, and it's nice. It makes things nice and tidy. Okay, so now we're going to go through the 4 video components and update the author names and the one-liner description. So let's do video 1. Okay. So in video 1, we're going to go to the Reels UI, and we're going to open up Author Group. So in video 1, open up Reels UI and open up Author Group. And let's change the name to you have to like select it and then hit the return key. So let's call it Biggie Peter. And then hit the escape key. And then for the description, let's, where is the description? Icons button, name, oh, here it is. So for the description, again, you got to select it, hit the return key, and then I'm going to paste in what I wrote. Now, right now, ProtoPie has some deficiencies where one auto layout would totally help with this, but it gets a little gnarly. When you do resizing and constraints, those have to be components that are directly pulled on. It can't be nested. That's all I'm trying to say. So if I wanted to do something, I would have to have that component directly on the same level as video 1. And I could do a tutorial or show people if they want to know how to do that. I can easily get on a call with them. But I'm just setting this up I curated this so the character count is the same for each one, or at least like visually it looks very close. So let's continue down and do the others. So I'm going to change the names and change the descriptions. Okay, we're almost down, or we're almost done with the main scene. Let's add the 4 comment components to the canvas, and we're going to drag 4 of them onto the canvas, and we're going to label them comments 1, 2, 3, and 4. And I am going to clip the sublayers again. So let's open this up. We'll do comments. Okay, and now let me see if I order them. So we're going to put them all at 0852. So let's select these 4. Let's be sure that they are all somehow, let me just be sure that they're all the same. I'm selecting the 4 of them. I want them to be all lined up, and I want them to all be at 0, and I said 852 on the Y, so directly underneath. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, and I want to make sure I uncheck make lower labels. Make sure that this is not checked. Okay. We don't want a user to be able to select things or drag or touch the videos through this component. All right. So in the same way we updated images everywhere else, we want to do that for the comments. So we let's open up comments 1. I'm going to go to the main UI, going down to scroll. I selected the image comments video 2, and I'm going to populate it with video 1. Okay. Now, if I hid these, I would see there's, I forget his name, Woody, the toy from Toy Story. Okay, so let me show all these layers. So I'm going to do the other 2, the other 3. Okay, so I'm back. So there are two things, easy things we need to do now. And I did one of them already, which is add the length of the videos. But the other thing is we need to add identification numbers to the Reels UI so we can know which comment sheet we want to see based on which video is being shown. So let's go down to video 1, open up the Reels UI. We're not even opening it up. We're just selecting it. And there's the ID, and we want to say 1. Let's open up video 2, select the Reels UI because that's where we had that override, and we want to call that 2. Open up video 3, Reels UI, 1, 2, 3. You could always use the arrow keys. And Reels UI 4 is video 4. Okay, let's take these home notches and just drag them to the top. By the way, if you ever want to just cut something, you know where you're going to position it, just excuse me, select the layer that you want to be below it, and you can paste it and it'll go there. So in this case, I selected comments 4 and pasted those notches at the top. So now we're going to use range triggers to simulate when a movie or a video pauses and plays based on the scrolling. I'm going to go to the final document to show you what I'm talking about. By the way, I know that the videos are probably getting captured in my microphone as well as the recording on the screen, so there's probably a little bit of a feedback loop. So just understand that's why you're hearing it.
New toys!
So when the user scrolls from around here, let me put that hairline on. You can see how the top video stops and Star Wars plays. And it does it for everything.
But I don't want any trouble in here.
That's how Reels or in Instagram or Reels and Facebook work. So around this threshold, around this area here, that's when the top one pauses and the bottom one starts playing. And we're going to recreate that using the range trigger. And if you recall, let me delete this. If you recall, the range trigger is, it allows you to set up ranges or like these parameters. And if something crosses into it, some property that you decide which property crosses into those ranges, it'll fire off whatever responses you have below. So we need to sort of understand the scroll that a user would do. ProtoPie has a cool way of doing it with a variable, but I do want to show you kind of a simple way. This way we can kind of zoom into the canvas rather than looking at the scroll in a preview. And that is the way that ProtoPie allows for. I will make a quick tutorial at some point. It's literally like a minute long of how to do this, and hopefully that can help you in other prototyping scenarios. All right, so to understand like how a user scrolls, we're going to select all of these videos, and I'm going to Command G, and I'm just going to call it temp folder, and ungroup. This is just temporary, so all the videos are together, and I can go like this really quickly. That's it. All right, so we know that we want, let me add a range trigger, and we're going to use this is the between button, and we want something to start at 0. We want this first video to start firing and start playing when it's at 0 on the y-axis. So that's why it starts immediately when you go into Reels. But we need to know what the other number is on the range. So what I did is I used this guide so I can zoom in, and I can take this progress bar and I can just put it right under and say this is the last point in the scroll where I want the Toy Story video to be playing. And then I'll look into the y-axis and I'll say it says -440. And ProtoPie doesn't want the negative number for scrolling down. They want the positive. So all I do is just copy this, or I can remember the number 440, and I put it in here. And so we're all set, and now basically like that's from 0 to 440 is when Toy Story is going to play. And what do we want to do? We want to send a message to the video component, because that's what all these things are. This is the component that we're working with. So I just opened up the drawer so we can see it. I'm going to add a send trigger because we're going to shoot a message to this component. And this is a child component of the main scene. And the video would look at the main scene as a parent component. So we're going to send a message to the component. And which component? Well, we're dealing with video 1. This is the Toy Story one. So we're selecting Toy Story. And what is the message that we're doing? Well, this is interesting. We're going to do a new message that doesn't exist yet. And it's called Play from Start. Because what we want to do is every time this video falls into this range, we want from frame number 1 of that video, we want to start playing. So I'm going to call it Play from Start. And you can use underscores, by the way. You can't have spaces, but you can use underscores with messages. And let's say send, I'm going to copy this, send message, I'll use quotations, play from start, video 1. Okay? So now this doesn't do anything because there's no instructions for any message that's called play from start. So we got to go back in here into the video, and I'm going to make myself a little note. You don't have to do this, but it might be a good habit, and I'm trying to get into it myself. So I'm going to write a note. It says, below is from main scene. All I'm doing is I'm using a focus trigger, and I am not doing anything to it. I'm not giving any functionality. And if I don't do anything to it, it's just sitting there. In fact, I could just kind of shut it off like that if I wanted to even go further. But all this is just literally a note to myself, like a post-it note, just to say that everything below is from the main scene. So I'm going to add a receive trigger, and we want to receive that message, play from start. So receive from the parent. And because we already set it up in the main scene, we're seeing play from start in the drop down here. Great. And now we're going to add a bunch of responses. And the responses are going to be a couple of playbacks and then an assign trigger. Okay, so let's do the playbacks. 1, 2. The first one is playback, and we want to call this seek to 0, 0. Yeah, 0, 0. Okay. Okay, and you're probably asking, like, what are we doing here? What's going on? So we want to target the clip, and we want to seek to the time, not the formula, time, and we want to write 0. So what we want to do is when we receive this trigger, we want to be sure that we seek to the first frame and play. No matter what's going on, that's what's going to happen. We're going to go to frame number 1. And the next thing is we want to simply play. We can call this play video looping. We want the videos to loop, and here's where we're going to take care of it in this scenario. Playback, looping, and we're going to select clip. And then the last thing is we have to still play ball with these guys up here. All of this stuff that we, the pause and play, I am just putting my focus on for 1 hour, okay? So the pause and play, we still need to know if this video is playing or not. So we just can't go rogue. We still have to, tell this is playing variable that something is playing. So I'm going to go to this receive tap video layer trigger, and I'm going to steal this guy. I'm going to say put number 1 into is playing, because we just started playing this video. So no matter what's going on, we got to drop a number 1 into this variable. And this is all set up, so I don't have to do anything. And so let's go back to this. Play from start. I'm wondering what I did wrong. Play from start, seek from parent, play from start, seek. Okay, that would help. So I was having a trouble, it wasn't working, and it's because you always got to check that you have the right thing targeted. I was targeting the temp folder. I need to target the paging container, and I need to be sure that it's on scroll. That's why it wasn't working. So now, this is looking good. We just didn't set up the rules for pausing it, and we're going to do that now. Okay, so what I'm going to do is, just so I don't have to keep on jumping back to my my notes, it's a little bit, it's hard for me to do that. So what I'm going to do is take the final product and grab the stuff from there. And then I'll recreate it and explain to you what I'm doing. So I grabbed the next ranger, and I'm going to say focus below is for reference. Okay, so what I did is I used a range trigger, and I used equal or greater than 441. So if you remember, when we drag this, when the user's scrolling and they hit that point, that is 440, and then if they go one more, it's 441. Okay? So what we want to do is say if it's equal or greater than 441, the scroll, the paging scroll, then we want to send these two messages, which we're also going to go and create. The first one is, let me set up the range, add trigger. We'll add the range. I added a range. This is what you should be doing right now. Add a range trigger. I am going to be sure that paging container is selected. And you can also just type in here paging. Okay, select it. And I don't want the X, I want the scroll. And I want to be sure that it's equal or greater than, and I want to be 441. 441. Okay, that's great. And we want to send two messages. Actually, I think I think I'm going to just bypass this one and see if I think I know what I can do. We want to send pause to video 1. So I'm going to send a message, and we're going to send it to the component. And just like this, a lot of the same, everything's sort of like clicking, hopefully, that we're going to send it to video 1, and we want the message to be pause. And let's just select that. I just want to retype it or paste the label in there so it's consistent with the final file. Okay, and I think we are all set. I'm going to delete that. And now we're going to go into let me grab. So now we're going to go into the video component, and we're going to add the pause receiving trigger. Okay, so we want to receive from the parent, and we want to receive pause. And I'm just going to add this. So this is what we're setting up right now. Receive pause. I'm just retyping. And we want to pause the video. Okay? So that's the first thing. So that we're going to use the playback response. Playback. Pause the video. We're going to select clip, and we're going to use pause right there. The next is that we're going to use the assign trigger. When this happens, we want to tell this variable, remember when I just mentioned that there's a 0 that needs to be put into there. I'm going to go up here and just going to copy it because everything's set up for me and I don't have to like redo it. And I'm going to add it there. Okay. Now, I am just thinking I did do something where I did another message called resend, reset, receive, reset. But I think that it does work if I just bypass doing this. So I'm going to give it a shot. I'm going to say reset. It's another playback, reset video to 0, 0. We just want everything to go back to 0, so when you start playing it, it'll be the very first frame of that video. So we'll do seek. And we want no delay time. Okay. And let's see if this works. And we should go to the main scene. Let me put this back to 0. Okay, that's great. So when I hit that threshold, you can see how it pauses. I am noticing a little something that I'm glad that I'm noticing something that we need to fix, and I am glad that I'm catching it here. Watch the progress bar. See how when I go back to reset, it animates back. I don't want it to animate back, and it's because somewhere I have a duration on animation. I want it to be instant. I don't want it to slide back into place. So let's go into the video component, and let's look for detect video time progress scale. There it is. We want it to be instant. So let's go back to main scene. Let's look at it. There. I just want it to disappear. There. It's just binary. I love it. Okay. Let's close this. So now, pause video 1. Now what we can do is group these, and this is where we can call it, what did I call it? Video 1 playback control. It's the most annoying thing in the world, having to hear that 1,000 times. Okay, so let's select this, Video 1 playback control. Okay, awesome. So now we're going to use a little bit of like the awesome like workflow stuff that we can do in ProtoPie. So I'm going to select these other things. I'm going to paste them here. I am going to put this on mute. It's going to drive me up the wall. So what we're going to do is I just need the values from this, but everything's been set up. We just need to change values. So I'm going to select Video 1 playback control, copy it, paste it, and now call it Video 2 playback control. And all these are not right, so we need to get the right ranges. So what I did is, let's move this. So let's go to, let's keep on scrolling this container. So we got this. Now we know, what is Star Wars? Where does this start? So we know that it needs to start playing at 4:41 because that's when Toy Story pauses. Okay, so let's go to range and type in 441. And let's just clear that out. And let me check to be sure that I got it right. Great, so it ends at 12:14. Okay. So what I'm just doing right there is, okay, I got the range trigger for, it starts playing at 4:41, and now, I don't want to move the scrim. I think I just messed that up. I need to go to where that white line is. And that's 12:14, just like the other thing says. Okay, great. So let's add that into the range trigger under playback to control 12, 14. And let's relabel this. And now we have to swap it to 2. Okay, okay, okay. And now the range for pausing is going to be 12, 15. And we can actually check that as well. Great. So we're using this, which is outward ranging. I forget what it's called. It's like not between. So 12:15 is where we want it to pause, but we also want it to pause, Star Wars to pause at 4:40. So I am in range. Let's do that. The first one is, back to 4:40, 12:15. 4:40, 12:15. Because remember, this starts to play at 4:41, so we want everything below 40:41, which is 4:40. That's when we want to pause, and then we also want everything outside of 12:14, which is 12:15, and to infinity to also pause. So that's the logic behind that. And then we want to pause video. I'm relabeling this video 2, sending it to video 2. And now, just to save some time, I'm going to use these. I think you can go through this. You have the understanding. But I'm going to then paste these two because it's a little bit of busy work. And then I'm just going to set it up so it connects to all of these guys. So let me put this back to 0. And let me ungroup it. Okay, great. I'm going to close that. Range. Well, we want it to be paging container. Okay. And we want this to be play from start from video 3. So we're going to send it to component. We're going to do video 3, play from start. This range, again, yikes, paging container. These numbers are set up. You can easily do the scrolling to find out, like, if you want to practice it. Send to component, send to component 3. We don't have those, so I remember I kind of combined the reset into the pause, so I took that out just now. So we only need one response under each trigger. And then the last one is paging video 4, paging video 4. All right, let's hide this hairline. Okay, let's give it a go. I just started.
Coming in. I've got a lot. Coming in. Let's go. Coming in. Let's go.
But I don't want any trouble in here. So hit the road.
Let's go. Coming in. I've got a lot. Let's go.
But I don't want any trouble in here.
Let's go. Coming in.
Okay, great. I just wanted to give it a test. So the next thing we're going to do to finish up this whole epic tutorial is we're going to do the comments.